and welcome to another Mythology Monday with me, your host, Alice Hanov. If you've followed my channel for a while, you know Mythology Monday is where I talk about the different things in our world that have influenced my book, The Head, the Heart, and the Heir, and my world of Taurean. And so today I'm a little disappointed with myself. I should have timed this better. But today we're going to be talking about death and the afterlife and ghosts as my Mythology Monday. And I'm kind of bummed that I did not time it better so that this ended up closer to Halloween. So shame on me, but let's start off spooky season with talking about ghosts in the afterlife and how specifically this is tying into the world of Taurean and the belief system that the world of Taurean mortals have for the afterlife. So a large portion of the afterlife beliefs in the world of Taurean is established from the Greek afterlife beliefs, where they believed in, there was kind of like a god who watched it, there was a guardian of the gates. Long story short, in Greek mythology, Hades was the god of the underworld, and it was guarded, the entrance to the underworld was guarded by Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guarded hell. And so there was different planes in hell, with there being the Elysian fields and the river Styx, where you would forget your mortal life by drinking from the river Leeds, and then you would be shuttled by a boat. So there's no boat and there's no rivers. But the way that their afterlife is presented is that when the mortals die, they go into the afterlife, and they do so by going into the entrance to the afterlife is a hidden location, but there is an entrance in the human world for people who can actually go to. But when their souls die, they show up at this location that is guarded by magic and like ethereal powers, and so you can't like magically get there. You have to get there by foot if you need to go, but it's guarded, and the mortal soul arrive, and they're allowed in by the guard of the underworld, which actually is the recently deceased Titan of Hades. So the Hades sorcerer line has their most important job take place after they die. When a Hades Titan dies and a new Titan takes over in the sorcerer world, the Hades Titan who died becomes the guardian of the human underworld until the next Titan dies. So it's kind of like they're the guard of the door until their heir apparent comes and takes over. So they get to do a couple, like 100 or 200 years guarding the door after they've done their time on Earth. So they have one of the longest jobs as a Titan. And so the humans then come to the Hades sorcerer, who then decides they're actually dead, they're not trying to sneak in, whatever. They get approved as being a dead human, and they're allowed in. And they actually enter through a ridiculously long sort of tunnel where they are cleansed of whatever it's their opportunity to leave behind the shackles of their mortal life and the things that they have regrets for and that. And if they died at a ripe old age, it allows them to shed the age and the experience and the regrets, and when they come out into the afterlife, they are whatever they consider to be their ideal age, whether it was like 17 or 35, whenever they were the happiest. That's how they emerge into the underworld. And so they then get to make their own little piece of the underworld, like their own little bit of heaven. If they were terrible, they end up coming out in not the beautiful place. They kind of have to, they end up in that world, but in a different section of it. But that doesn't mean that they can't infiltrate the good. It's just most of the good have managed to keep away the bad, but the good and the bad are all kind of mixed into the underworld together. And then they get to kind of go and make their own little piece of the underworld, almost like picture a giant chessboard where everyone has their own little square, and they get to make their own little heaven. And so that is their underworld, where they can be together with their family if they want to be. They can all go into one square together and make the life when they were most happy, or they can be by themselves if that's what they long to do. And so, like, if you were a scholar and all you ever wanted to do is just read every book in the world, you would walk into your area and it would just be a giant library with every book ever written, and you could just sit down and start reading. Or if you were a dog lover, you might walk in and it'd be like a puppy farm, and you have like 100 puppies to take care of. So it's just whatever you think that is. Now, how the ghosts come into play. The spirits of the mortals are able to go back to the human plane. It's hard. It's kind of like they're sacrificing a piece of their little piece of heaven in order to go back to the human world. So if you think you have this much space in the afterlife, it shrinks if you continue to go back. Now, for somebody like, say, Alex's grandfather Arthur, who died, and when he went through that tunnel, he did not give up that regret of not having achieved what he wanted to achieve, getting rid of her mother and her whole family and that. And so he is so vengeful that it came through, he came out of the tunnel still with that vengeance in him, and so he will give up whatever he has to of his immortal soul to go back and continue on. It's slightly different for the sorcerers. When the sorcerers die, they stay in the sorcerer land. No matter where they die, they go to the sorcerer land, and they are essentially just ghosts walking around with the other sorcerers. The Hades line can see them. No one else can really see them there, but they still exist with the living in their land, which is why they can be summoned and brought forward and be talked to in that. For the Hades line to bring a mortal forward, they kind of have to call that mortal forward and bring them forward. Some of the mortals choose to remain in the human world because that was their happy place. That's common for the kings and queens of kingdoms who would rather remain in their kingdom watching their great grandchildren rule, and that rather than going into where they were happiest. Being there is their happy place, and so they get to stay. But for the majority of the human souls, they prefer to be in the underworld. But those who stay, some of them have given up their peace in the underworld, some of them just visit, like Alex's grandfather visits and that, and I can't tell you that. That's a spoiler for book 4. But so human souls can come back if they want to. If a sorcerer summons them back, they're not coming of their own accord, and so therefore they don't lose that little piece of their happy place in order to come back, which is very helpful. And for example, Daniel, who follows Alex around, he still has his piece waiting there. He can come and go as he pleases because his is a sorcerer's spell that was put on him. So he was made a guardian, which means he's essentially a guardian angel for Alex, which is why he can come and go as he pleases, and it doesn't do anything negative to him in the afterlife, because this is a task he took on and he willingly accepted this spell, and so it allows him to pass into and out of the underworld in order